So is there anything else on this plane of existence that might be interesting to have a look at?
Oh, yes.
In cultural
Lots
terms?
of things that might be interesting to have a look at. Absolutely. The thing is, this is a model. Okay, what I've produced is a model of reality. What's unique about it and interesting about it, I think, is that it's a logical process model. It talks to the left brain people in the world. Mm-hmm. It talks to all the mechanics and the scientists and engineers and the lawyers and the doctors and everybody that does logical process, for a living. And that's the way they think. All those left brain people right now are out there with nothing that they can connect to. There's tons and tons of right brain type things about spirituality and about reality models and that sort of stuff. They're all poetical, like what you just say. It's like going to, that's poetry. That's descriptive. It's not logical process. If you can relate to that, if you hear that, oh yeah, it's always all there. That rings with me. I resonate with that, you see. Then fine. That's good model for you because you can personally connect to it. You take a left brain engineer, he looks at that and he says, no, that's BS, doesn't mean anything to me. What do you mean everybody's here? Where are they? Let me find them. Let's count them, He wants to turn it into numbers in a physical search, you see. They can't deal with that. So here we have probably 70% of our population is probably left brain dominant. All the lawyers make all the politicians, right? And the scientists tell the politicians, a lot of, in our culture, a lot about what to think. I would say that science is our culture's religion. Mm. So we have the high priests of our culture are the scientists, and we have the politicians of our culture are the lawyers, and then we have the doctors, and we have all these other professionals, and most of them have the CEOs and the businessmen, and they're all left brain because it's all logical process is what they deal with. They're the ones running things. They have a lot of influence in our culture, and they're the ones that tell everybody else what to believe and what not to believe. So my thought was that what we needed was a description that reached into spirituality, reached into metaphysics, but it had to start with physics. You couldn't have metaphysics deriving physics because you couldn't get these left brain guys to start with metaphysics. Mm. You can have physics deriving metaphysics because they'll get on board with the physics and oh my God, it leads you to metaphysics, and this metaphysics makes sense. So, my model was basically designed for all those, left brain techies and bureaucrats and other people who do logical process so that there'd be something that they could read that would make sense to them and would maybe lead them to a better place of how to be because it would be logical to them. And another model, there's lots of models. Buddhism is a model of reality. And we mostly say the same thing. Any number of times I've stood up here and I've given a lecture and has somebody in the audience says, I've been studying Tibetan Buddhism for the last 3 decades, and you're saying the same thing. It's exactly the same. Well, sure, it should be exactly the same. It's just that Tibetan Buddhists use different words, different metaphors, different symbols, and they resonate with people of that culture, and they resonate with people who have that experience. They don't resonate with physicists at all. It resonates with those people, and it's just descriptive, though. It's all about, this is what happened to me, and here's what it means. It's not logical process. But those are good models, and why do I sound like a Tibetan Buddhist? Because there's only one truth. But you can approach that truth from many different directions. You see, there's one truth, but there's 1,000 different paths to get to that truth. And every one of those paths is valid. You say, is there any use in any of these other things? Well, sure there are. Everybody isn't going to travel one path. There's 1,000 paths, and it's good that there's 1,000 paths because there's 1,000 different kinds of people out here that need to follow those paths. And all those traditions, the shamanic traditions, I guess it started often with the Hindus about 4,000 BC. You have the Bhagavad Gita, you have those two, and you can take all of it, and you can see where that and my big toe are just like this. They're together. We're all one. All of this is illusion. I sound like the Buddha too, right? It's just because there's one truth. I just described that in a different way so the left-brainers can get on board because it's important to get those left-brainers on board. They're the ones that are kind of dragging their feet. through this whole thing, and we need to give them something they can get a hold of.
And especially if they're the majority, too.
Yes, they're the majority, and not only are they the majority by numbers, but they're the massive majority by influence.
Yeah.